Commentary: why Alex Eala did not need an Australian Open win to spark a movement. There are moments in sport that don't belong to the win-loss column. Alexander Alex Eala may have exited the Australian Open without a win, but she walked away with something more powerful: the full weight of a nation's loyalty. On Court 6 on Monday, Eala didn't just play tennis, she represented a nation. For years, her Australian Open run had always ended in heartbreak, winning the first set in qualifiers against Japan's Misaki Doi but failing to pull through in Court 8 back in 2023. A straight-set loss to Sweden's Rebecca Peterson in Court 13 in 2024, and a repeat of the same against Croatia's Jana Fett in 2025 at Court 15. Australian Open 2026 already set the scene, with Eala as the first-ever Filipina to play as a main draw contender. When Eala finally walked onto the court, it didn't feel like a first-round match. It felt like a homecoming, a cultural gathering. Filipino flags were raised. Voices folded into one chant. "Let's go, Alex. Let's go." Wasn't crowd noise. It was a declaration. She opened with a bagel set, showing dominance and owning the baseline. It was the kind of start that makes you believe the universe is conspiring in your favor. Then the match turned. Alicia Parks, her American opponent, found her rhythm. Momentum shifted. The scoreboard flipped. And still the crowd didn't leave her. When Eala spoke after the match, she didn't sound defeated. "I felt so loved even when I was 5-2 down in the third," she said. That wasn't an athlete talking about tennis. That was a Filipina acknowledging what it means to be carried by your people when the moment doesn't go your way. That unshakable block of pride, noise, and godlike fanaticism that turns any one of ours into a cultural icon. Court 6 didn't feel like an arena. It felt like a diaspora reunion. Melbourne's Filipino community made their presence felt. This wasn't just fandom. This was the Filipino loyalty in motion. It was the Filipino diaspora stepping fully into visibility on one of the world's biggest sporting stages. The Philippines has always been known for our 3Bs, basketball, boxing, and beauty pageants. Eala changed that with tennis. When asked how she balances tactics with soaking in what this moment means for Filipino tennis on the world stage, Eala answered, "I'm big on compartmentalizing. So I think there's a time for each of those things. I think walking into the court and right before or during the match is not the time for you to look at the big picture. Like, I've done so many matches in my life. And although it's different now because it's a Grand Slam, it's my first main draw in Australia. It is just another match. I have to treat it as so. So I have certain routines I do, warm-ups when I'm there. It's such a competitive mindset that you're not thinking about what this does for the Philippines. You're thinking about what do I need to do in the next point. And then, of course, there are moments after the match when you walk off and you realize there's so many people and they give so much love. Then you reflect on it, and it helps cushion the loss, I guess. Depends how you look at it. But there are certain moments when I'm with my family and we talk about kind of how much we have grown in the journey leading up to this. Those are the types of moments you can look back and say, wow, there's a lot of people today. Her singles loss wasn't the end of her Australian Open. In doubles on Tuesday, partnering Ingrid Martins of Brazil, she fought through a marathon match, even building a 4-0 lead before bowing out. Another loss. But was it really? Movements are often misunderstood as moments, single points in time where victory crowns effort and history obediently follows. But movements, especially the ones that last, rarely begin with trophies. They begin with permission. Alex Eala did not need an Australian Open win to spark a movement because her significance was never confined to a scoreboard. Long before any Grand Slam title could validate her, she had already begun to change what was imaginable. In countries where sporting heroes are inherited rather than cultivated, greatness often arrives like a rumor from elsewhere. Tennis in the Philippines has long lived in that shadow, admired from afar, played passionately but privately, and rarely believed to be a realistic path to global relevance. Alex Eala disrupted that quiet resignation not by winning everything, but by showing up everywhere. Courts that once felt distant suddenly had a familiar name echoing across them, a name that sounded like home. What Eala represented, even before the world started counting her wins, was visibility. A young Filipina competing confidently on the global tennis stage challenged an unspoken ceiling. She did not ask permission to belong. She acted as if belonging was already hers. That posture alone is revolutionary in environments where talent is often filtered through doubt about resources, geography, and whether the world is even watching. An Australian Open title would have been monumental. Yes, but monuments are not movements. Monuments commemorate, movements activate. Eala's presence activated conversations in living rooms, schools, and local courts. What if this is possible? What if it's not just a one-off? What if the barrier was belief, not ability? Her journey reframed success from something that must be imported to something that can be grown. Training abroad did not dilute her identity. It sharpened it. Each time she stepped onto a court with a flag beside her name, she carried a narrative larger than herself. Not a burden, but an invitation, especially to young girls who had never seen someone who looked like them compete without apology on such a stage. Importantly, Eala's influence unfolded in a digital age where inspiration no longer trickles down from headlines alone. Clips, interviews, quiet resilience after losses, and composure against higher-ranked opponents all traveled faster than trophies. Losses did not weaken the movement, they humanized it. They told a true story, that progress is uneven, that excellence is built, and that representation does not require perfection. This is why waiting for a Grand Slam win to anoint her impact misses the point. Movements that depend on victory alone are fragile. They rise and fall with form. But movements rooted in identity, access, and imagination are harder to undo. Once a child believes a future is plausible, that belief does not vanish when someone loses in the third round. Alex Eala also challenged a subtler narrative, that athletes from non-traditional powerhouses must win immediately to justify attention. There is an impatience placed on pioneers that champions from established systems rarely face. Eala resisted that pressure by continuing to grow in public, refusing to compress a career into a single defining moment. That patience, hers and the movement's, may be her most radical act.